Let's face it, there's a ton of callouts in DayZ, and if you haven't been playing for a while, you might not know them all. And callouts are essential for PvP, or just finding your buddy. I'm Fox, and let's go through some DayZ callouts that I use. We're going to go through these in tiers: civilian, military, and industrial. Hopefully this will help streamline this video, and if you're looking for specific tier callouts, check out the timestamps in the description. L shape. A barrack in the shape of an L. One entry with 4 rooms and a restroom at the end. One of the hardest buildings to push, in my opinion. HQ. A 2-story building with lots of windows and roof access. Good for clothing loot, but not much else. Double door barracks. Fairly small barracks, but one of my favorites. Loads of beds, you'll find guns and some clothes here. Next, we got A2s or A3s, or simply Arma barracks. Small corridors with a lot of doors. Not much loot to be had here. You might find ammo, some clothes, but nothing much really. This is actually one of my least favorite buildings. I call these bunkers. Some of you may call them hangars, but each one is numbered. It's a big opening with maybe clothes or armor inside. And then there's 2 openings on the side of it that also have loot. In this area alone, there is a total of 11 bunkers. The Camo Nest, a 2-level kind of platform surrounded by sandbags. Good for ammo, mags, and clothing. The Half Can Barracks, or otherwise known as a Half Moon. A fairly small barracks, good for weapons, ammo, and clothing. But be careful, as this is not bulletproof and can be shot through. Simply put, this is camo. Other people may call it jail, but it is one of my favorite buildings to push. It's got weird angles, especially when you get toward the stairs. But it's got 1 entry, complete with a jail cell, and 2 floors. ATC, the large one to be specific. This building has a lot of entries, from the garage, the front, the side, and including the roof. This isn't a building that I like to hang out in, although the loot can sometimes be good. Tents. Just in general, they're tents. Now, there are 3 different kinds of tents, each of them having their own unique characteristic, but loot is generally the same across all 3. The Guard Shack. It's a simple 1-entry building with 3 rooms. It's good for low-tier loot, especially when you're on the coast. Civvy Barracks. It's 1 way in, a short hallway with 3 rooms. These are good for ammo and armor. Actually a very good barrack if you ask me. The small ATC. Very similar to design as the big ATC, but very different in layout. There's only 1 entry and it's 2 stories. Double door bunkers. This is a building or a call out that I often forget. And there's actually pretty good loot, especially in the back room, where you'll find ammo and occasionally a rifle. This is the admin building. I often look at this building as a bit of a death trap. Too many windows and not enough cover. But as far as loot goes, it's pretty decent. Piano, the building with 3 entryways. This is the hospital. Obviously a very good spot to get all the medical supplies that you'll need. It's a 3-story building with roof access. Red roof and blue roof barns, respectively. Simple barns with 2 entryways. The large shed or a garage shed. Perfect for parking your car. The yellow color of this house gives it the name Mustard House. Here we have double red, double brown, and double green, respectively. All pretty much generally the same as far as loot and layout. And here are some general markets or apartments, as some people call them. They're just your generic buildings. There's not really a name for specifically each one. The Watermelon House. It's honestly a house that I typically avoid as it doesn't spawn anything. This is a small log cabin, or I call it Grandma's house, and I'm not sure why. The Bar or Tavern. A very good spot to find rifles under the staircase. Fortress. One of the most common buildings to have a base inside of it. Now, I'll be honest, I often forget the name of this building, but it is Salmon Roof. Fairly basic as far as loot and entryways go. Mustache. It's probably the most common building that I have seen have bases. Red Stilted has 2 entryways, one that is elevated and one that is on the ground floor. It's a good building. There's sometimes rifles and food that spawn here. Next we have the cafe, which isn't really much, and honestly you'll find less food here and more clothing. As for Orange Brick, it's actually a good spot to find a rifle, and there's a nice little hidey hole up the stairs. The Hotel. Honestly, a great place for a base. Attic House. This used to be one of my favorites as it used to spawn guns, but not so much anymore. Now, sheds are pretty generic as there's multiple sheds and I use them interchangeably. The Hunting Store. A PvPer's guaranteed stop. It's a good spot for finding scopes and rifles. Apartments. You have your high-rise and your short apartments. Not much for loot in either of these. The grocery store or the supermarket is a good spot for your foods. An icon in the DayZ buildings is the Firehouse, a 2-story building with a stairwell tower, which is awesome for sniping, as well as getting sniped all the same. New PD, a 3-story building with roof access. You'll expect to find all of your police loot here, stab vest and rifles and handgun. Old PD. Normally you would just say PD because you're not going to have old and new in the same location. Kiosks or snack shacks. These are actually very good for loot. You can find rifles on the roof or food inside. The bus stop or bus station. This is a great spot to find backpacks and press vests, as well as packaged food. Yet another call out with multiple variations is church. We have the basic barn and then long barn. These are actually pretty awesome bases if done right. The school or office has a couple of entryways and is 3 stories tall. With a little bit of roof access, it's an okay building. A staple for the medical supplies is the clinic. You will find all of your medical needs here, bandages and medicines, all alike. With so many rooms and so many windows, this is the school. It's a building that I stay away from unless I'm chasing PvP. The train station is a very simple building with minimal loot spawns and 2 ways of entry. And here's a building that I don't visit too often. It's the office building. With multiple floors and roof access, it has a cubicle for you up top to snipe out of. The green guard shack. It's small and simple, but it does hold some good loot from time to time. Anything from clothing to firearms. This is the sewing factory, which just happens to look like piano from this angle. But on the inside, it is very different. You have an upstairs loft, multiple rooms, and of course, the factory on the other side. Double blue doors. That's what I've called them my entire playthrough. I don't know if that's actually what they're called, but by all means, if you call it something different, let me know. Glass house or bird box. And I've even heard this one called electrical for some reason. It's a open space concept building, which is awesome for the big base builders. Red 10, one of the biggest factory buildings and completely empty on the inside for most of them. This one is commonly known as construction. Although there are 2 other variants and they are smaller, when people say construction, this is what they mean. Blue 10, a building with 2 entries and then an upstairs hidey hole. Other than that, it's not much. A building that I don't call out hardly ever. It's hard to name this. So me and my buddies came up with Skylight Building, or Skylight. Service garages, or just garages for short. Depending on where these garages are located on the map, they are very worth checking. The smokestack and silos. All I can tell you right now is don't bother climbing them unless you're going for an angle. So without dragging this video out too long by going into too much detail into each and every single building, there's at least 60 callouts for you guys. And if you guys call something different, let me know. If I missed anything, yell at me in the comments. And with all of that being said, YouTube thinks you're gonna like this video next.